Ankita Robin and welcome to SG Global News. From the arrest and possible sentencing of a Spanish priest for criticizing jihadists to Israel's interception of a civilian flotilla bringing aid to the Gaza Strip, we have many stories to cover. A Spanish priest is on trial in Barcelona facing up to 3 years in prison for criticizing radical Islam in an article he published. Father Custodio Ballester has been charged with a hate crime, while a group of Catholic lawyers has gathered tens of thousands of signatures urging prosecutors to drop the case. The trial has drawn attention to what Christian groups call double standards, pointing to rising hostility against Christianity in Spain.
Trial has begun for a Spanish priest who is facing a possible 3-year jail term for publishing an article criticizing radical Islam. Father Custodio Ballester from Barcelona was charged with hate crime for writing an article titled The Impossible Dialogue with Islam in response to a pastoral letter from the Archbishop of Barcelona, who had called for a necessary dialogue with Islam. 61-year-old Father Ballester appeared in court on October 1st. Meanwhile, Abogados Cristianos, a group of Christian lawyers, collected nearly 30,000 signatures asking the hate crimes prosecutor to drop the charges against the priest. On their official website, the lawyers denounced the double standards of the law that ignored attacks and harassment against the Christian faith. They stated that if Spanish citizens tolerated the injustice being committed against Father Ballester, they would be setting a fatal precedent. In an interview with Catholic news agency last year, Father Ballester said, quote, "I know Muslims who were not offended and understood perfectly well that I was not referring to them, but to those who live Islam in a violent and radical way," end quote. In his article, Father Ballester had stressed that Christians could not put their faith into hibernation so that it did not clash with progressive dogma and ideology. He also noted that in countries where Muslims held power, Christians were brutally persecuted and murdered.
The relics of Saint Teresa of Lisieux have returned to the United States after 26 years for a national pilgrimage. The tour opened on October 1st, her feast day, at the National Shrine of the Little Flower Basilica in Royal Oak, Michigan. Over the 2 months, the relics will travel through 11 states before concluding in Florida on December 8th. The relics of Saint Teresa of Lisieux have returned to the United States after 26 years for a national pilgrimage beginning in Royal Oak, Michigan. The pilgrimage, organized in connection with the centenary of her canonization, opened on October 1st, the feast day of the Little Flower, at the National Shrine of the Little Flower Basilica. Archbishop Edward J. Weisenberger of the Archdiocese of Detroit celebrated the opening Mass, which drew hundreds of pilgrims. Reverend Father John Betton, rector of the National Shrine of the Little Flower Basilica, expressed his joy at the relic's arrival, saying, quote, "Our church is named after her, and so it's a great day. You can sense the joy," end quote. He added that since the saints are already in heaven and close to God, the faithful hope that they can intercede and pray for them. The relic's arrival at the National Shrine also coincides with its centennial anniversary. The relics were last brought there in 1999, when they remained for less than 24 hours. During that visit, tens of thousands of pilgrims came to venerate them between 5 a.m. and 11 p.m. This year's pilgrimage will carry the relics of Saint Therese, which include some of her bones, strands of her hair, and a piece of her religious habit, across several states including California, Arkansas, Florida, Louisiana, Maryland, Virginia, Missouri, Texas, Wisconsin, and Washington, D.C. The tour will conclude on December 8th in Florida. An estimated 850 Christians are still being held captive by jihadist Fulani herdsmen in the notorious Rijana forest located in southern Kaduna state, according to testimonies from former hostages. In a statement released on September 28, the International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law condemned the ongoing persecution of Christians reportedly taking place near a military installation and called for the immediate release of all victims.
Testimonies of Nigerians captured by jihadist Fulani herdsmen have revealed that hundreds of Christians are still being held by Islamist group in the Rijana forest in the southern part of Nigeria's Kaduna state. On September 28, the International Society of Civil Liberties and Rule of Law shared a statement that the persecution of Christians are allegedly being held near a military post and said the victims must be freed. According to a report by Truth Nigeria, victims who had been held captive for months described witnessing 11 large camps in Rijana, each containing over 50 hostages. In addition to that, they reported seeing 10 smaller camps, each holding around 30 captives. As of August, the estimated number of Christian captives in the village was believed to be around 850. Criticizing the Nigerian authorities for their inaction regarding the plight of Christians still being held in Rijana, researchers from Inter-Society stated that the forest lies along the Kaduna-Abuja Expressway and houses several military installations including the Nigerian Army Table Hill Training Area and the Army School of Artillery. The researchers also pointed out that the Kaduna state has likely recorded the highest number of Christian abductions in Nigeria over the past 9 to 10 months, reporting at least 1100 cases between December 2nd, 2024 and September 28, 2025. The Truth Nigeria report recounts the harrowing experience of 32-year-old Esther Emmanuel and her 10-month-old daughter Anita, who were abducted from their home in Gaud village, Kaduna, on the night of June 4th. The same night, 35-year-old farmer Maureen Mika was also taken by Fulani militants responsible for the attack. Describing the kidnappers' hideouts in Rijana, Mika told Truth Nigeria, quote, "I saw many large camps, about 5, though there may have been more. Each one held over 50 hostages. There were also more than 10 smaller camps, each with around 30 people. Esther and I were kept in one of those smaller camps, which had 30 captives. Each camp was named after its commander. Ours was called Santa, after the man in charge." End quote. Micah described life in camp as brutal, saying hostages were fed only cornmeal without any soup and were routinely beaten. Esther shared that prayer was her only consolation. The researchers of Inter-Society said that before 2015, Nigerian military was known for neutrality, secularity and semi-professionalism. But currently the lack of neutrality among military authorities has made the situation difficult.
The March for Life has announced that the theme for its 2026 rally will be Life is a Gift. The annual pro-life march will take place in Washington, D.C. on January 23rd, featuring testimonies and music performances. Organizers say the theme reflects the movement's conviction that every life is good and worthy of protection. The March for Life has announced that the theme for its 2026 event will be Life is a Gift. The March for Life Education and Defense Fund revealed the theme on its website on September 30th. Organizers stated that the 2026 theme emphasizes the unshakable conviction that life is very good and worthy of protection no matter the circumstances, which lies at the heart of the pro-life movement. The 2026 March for Life will take place in Washington, D.C. on January 23rd. At the 2025 March, U.S. President Donald Trump addressed the attendees via a video message, while Vice President J.D. Vance made history as only the second sitting Vice President to attend the event in person. At the upcoming march, Sarah Herm, an Iowa mother of 5, will share her testimony about beginning a chemical abortion and then reversing it, a pivotal step in her journey toward redemption. The Grammy-nominated Christian band Sanctus Real will also perform at the rally. Pro-life activists have been marching in Washington since 1974 on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court decision that struck down numerous state abortion laws and legalized abortion nationwide. Led by Nellie Gray, the first march was organized in 1974 with the intention of continuing annually until Roe v. Wade was overturned. In 2022, the Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade in the landmark Dobbs vs. Jackson Women's Health Organization decision. However, the March for Life continues its mission until a culture of life is restored in the United States. German police arrested 3 men in Berlin on October 1, 2025 for allegedly plotting Hamas-directed attacks on Jewish and Israeli targets. The suspects of Middle Eastern origin were caught during a sting operation transferring weapons, including a Glock pistol and an AK-47. This marks the second foiled Hamas plot in Germany since December 2023 amid rising anti-Semitic threats. Authorities are intensifying security ahead of the October 7th attack anniversary and Yom Kippur.
German police foiled a Hamas terror plot by arresting 3 men linked to the group who were preparing a serious attack against several Jewish targets in Germany. The arrest occurred a week before the second anniversary of the October 7 attack. The suspects are believed to have provided ammunition intended for assassination targeting Israeli or Jewish institutions in Germany. Prosecutors stated that the 3 men of Middle Eastern origin and in their 40s were apprehended by anti-terrorism investigators during a sting operation while handing over functional weapons, including a Glock. This is not the first instance of Hamas operatives being captured in Berlin. Last year, police arrested 4 Hamas members for plotting an attack on Jewish institutions in Europe.
The Catholic Church in South Korea has launched a nationwide 40 Days of Prayer for Life campaign in response to the government's move to legalize abortion and introduce abortion pills. The prayer initiative, which began on September 24th and runs until November 2nd, has drawn Catholics and Christians from other denominations into public gatherings of silent prayer and witness. Church leaders emphasized the need to protect both women and unborn children while safeguarding the conscience rights of medical professionals.
The Catholic Church in South Korea has launched a nationwide 40 Days of Prayer for Life campaign in response to the government's proposed changes to the country's abortion law that would legalize abortion. Under President Lee Jae-myung, the government is seeking to replace the term abortion with termination of pregnancy, legalize abortion procedures, and introduce abortion pills. The campaign, which started on September 24th, is organized by the Committee for Family and Life of the Korean Bishops' Conference and will run until November 2nd, Agency of Aid reported. Bishop Moon Chang-woo, chairman of the committee, reiterated the church's opposition to abortion and advocated for policies that protect both women and unborn children and that guarantee the right of health professionals to conscientious objection. As part of the campaign, lay Catholics, priests, and religious are gathering in public squares across the country, holding pro-life signs and praying silently. Meanwhile, the National Coalition for the Protection of Fetuses and Women, comprising 70 organizations, has launched a signature campaign seeking to block any bill favoring abortion or the abortion pill. In 2019, the Constitutional Court of South Korea ruled to decriminalize abortion. The government is now aiming to guarantee women's health, safety, and rights by amending laws related to abortion.
In a powerful convergence of faith and influence, Pope Leo XIV and Arnold Schwarzenegger urged global action on environmental issues near Rome. At the Raising Hope for Climate Justice conference in Castel Gandolfo, the pontiff called for spiritual renewal and stewardship of the planet, while Schwarzenegger praised the Church's role. Leaders and experts gathered to confront pollution and ecological threats.
Pope Leo XIV and Arnold Schwarzenegger addressed the opening day of the Raising Hope for Climate Justice conference in Castel Gandolfo, Italy on October 1st, according to ACI Africa. The Laudato Si movement organized the 3-day event, bringing together bishops, indigenous leaders, climate experts, and representatives of international organizations. The Pope urged unity in safeguarding the planet, describing humanity as one family. He stressed that environmental issues were not passing trends, but pressing concerns that required spiritual conversion as well as social and political action. He emphasized that caring for creation was an integral part of Christian faith and invited young people, families, and political leaders to act responsibly. Schwarzenegger said the Church's 1.4 billion members and 200,000 churches represented powerful allies in the fight against pollution. He praised the Vatican's early adoption of solar panels and carbon-neutral efforts, calling Pope Leo an action hero for planetary care. He suggested that addressing pollution rather than climate change could resonate more strongly with the public. The Holy Father also pointed to upcoming United Nations summits on climate, food security, and water, urging world leaders to listen to the cry of the earth and the poor. His message highlighted urgency and collective responsibility for the planet.
On October 1st, Pope Leo XIV spoke at the Raising Hope Conference organized by the Laudato Si movement to mark the 10th anniversary of Pope Francis's encyclical Laudato Si. Addressing participants at the international gathering on climate justice, the Holy Father reflected on the significance of the encyclical, emphasizing that one day God will ask whether we have truly cared for our common home.
Pope Leo XIV addressed participants at an international conference on climate justice, reflecting on Pope Francis's landmark ecological encyclical Laudato Si. He reminded them that in time God will ask whether we cared for our common home. While marking the 10th anniversary of Laudato Si, the Holy Father addressed participants in the Raising Hope conference organized by Laudato Si movement. In the opening session of the conference held at Mariapolis Center in Castel Gandolfo, Italy, Pope Leo XIV blessed a block of ice from Greenland Glacier. The ice, which had broken off from the ice sheet, was retrieved from the New Kangerlua Fjord, was brought to the event by artist Olafur Eliasson with the assistance of geologist Mink Rosing. During his address, the Pope expressed gratitude for Pope Francis's encyclical. He noted that its impact has extended to summits, interreligious initiatives, economic and business circles, as well as theological and bioethical studies. The Pope highlighted that the challenges outlined in Laudato Si are even more pressing today than they were a decade ago. He stressed that these issues are not only political but also spiritual, calling for what Pope Francis described as a conversion of heart. He explained that the heart is a place where most profound questions arise, where our true identity is rooted, and where decisions are shaped. Only by turning inward, he said, can a genuine ecological conversion begin. The Holy Father reminded the participants the ecological concerns, justice for the poor, social commitment, and inner peace are inseparable, quoting Pope Francis's description of Saint Francis of Assisi. In anticipation of upcoming global summits such as COP30 and the UN's 2026 Water Conference, the Pope called on world leaders to listen to the voices of the earth and the poor, families, indigenous people, involuntary migrants, and people of faith around the world.
The deadly 6.9 magnitude earthquake that struck Cebu, Philippines on September 30th has prompted church safety inspections and relief efforts. Archbishop Alberto Uy ordered parishes to suspend Mass until structures are declared safe. Philippine authorities confirmed nearly 60 fatalities and over 150 injuries. Local leaders and church officials urged the faithful to pray for the victims and support emergency responders.
A 6.9 magnitude earthquake struck northern Cebu Island near Bogo City late on September 30th, according to the U.S. Geological Survey, Vatican News reported. Archbishop Alberto Oy of Cebu ordered all the places of worship in affected parishes to suspend Mass until experts verified the structural safety. The tremor caused widespread damage across the province. On Bantayan Island, a centuries-old church belfry collapsed, while shoppers flooded a mall as ceilings gave away in Cebu City. Officials confirmed nearly 60 deaths and over 150 injuries. Casualties may rise as rescue operations continue. Archbishop Oy expressed closeness to victims and urged the faithful to pray for calm and protection. Additionally, he emphasized the importance of entrusting communities and families to God's mercy during the disaster. Bishop Socrates Messiana of Palawan also called for solidarity through prayer for the affected communities. Authorities reported 379 aftershocks, snapped power lines, cracked roads, and isolated villages. In addition, the Office of Civil Defense confirmed 30 deaths just in Bogo City and appealed for volunteer medics to assist emergency teams. The earthquake coincided with Archbishop Oy's installation mass attended by nearly 60 bishops. Church officials call for unity and vigilance as recovery efforts continue across the region.
The Israeli Navy intercepted the global Sumud flotilla on Wednesday night as it attempted to breach the Gaza maritime blockade. At least 6 of the 47 vessels were boarded and activists including Greta Thunberg were detained before being taken to Ashdod for deportation. The flotilla was departed Spain with more than 500 participants and claimed humanitarian aid refused Israeli demands for inspection. Israel defended the action as enforcement of its blockade, while activists condemned it as intimidation.
On Wednesday night, the Israeli Navy began intercepting the Global Summit Flotilla, a pro-Hamas fleet attempting to break Israel's maritime blockade on Gaza. The flotilla was intercepted after Israeli Navy issued numerous warnings to change its course. Soldiers boarded at least 6 out of the 47 vessels, detaining activists including Greta Thunberg, who appeared in a video later released by the Israeli Foreign Ministry. The ministry stated that those detained were safe and healthy and would be brought to Ashdod before being deported. The flotilla, which deported from Spain with more than 500 participants and packages what they claimed to be humanitarian aid, rejected Israel's demands to divert to Ashdod for inspection. Some boats reportedly tried evading interception, and activists were seen discarding phones into the sea after the boarding began. The operation unfolded while Israel observed Yom Kippur and followed rocket fire from northern Gaza towards Ashdod, which was intercepted without causing any damage. Israel defended its actions as enforcement of its blockade, while flotilla participants framed the move as an act of intimidation aimed at halting the aid delivery.
That's all for today. Until we meet again, God bless and thank you.